Welcome to Mission Majjhima, Ajahn.
Ajahn.
Ajahn, so tell us about the Bhaddālisutta.
So in this discourse to Bhaddāli, the Buddha talks about training, and the main character in this is Bhaddāli, who's a monk who, upon hearing and learning that the Buddha at the beginning of the sutta says that he himself eats one meal a day, and he encourages others to eat one meal a day. And Bhaddāli feels himself unable to keep to that, or even to keep to eating before noon, which is the monastic rule. So monastics are able to eat up until noon, but it can be more than one meal. But here the Buddha is praising eating one meal a day, but does allow Bhaddāli and other monks to eat more than one meal before noon. But Bhaddāli decides that he's not going to comply with that. And he keeps the whole range retreat, not keeping these rules, and he is approached by other monks who are going to go and see the Buddha after the range retreat, and they suggest that he should go and see the Buddha as well. So he does that, and upon coming to the Buddha, he confesses that he didn't keep this rule, and I think we might go into the wording of that, but just saying that a transgression has overcome him, and the Buddha agrees and actually calls him a misguided man, and has a very interesting framing. And this happens 3 times throughout the course of this sutta, as Bhaddāli confessing his fault and the Buddha reprimanding him, because it did take place over such a long time, 3 months. And then after that, the Buddha gives a couple of similes, just first saying that basically, Bhaddāli, everybody realized that you weren't keeping this. All the monks, all the bhikkhunis, all of the laymen and laywomen, everybody could see that he wasn't keeping this. And then he brings up this example of 7 types of liberated people who, if asked to be a plank for the Buddha, say if the Buddha's walking around, asked to be a plank, and this is a hypothetical hyperbole of filiality, or of the extent of which someone's going to follow the Buddha. But these enlightened people, if asked to be a plank, they wouldn't just walk in front of the Buddha or do anything. But these 7 types of people, and this is a different format than the 4 types of enlightened people that we usually find of stream enter, once returner, non-returner, and arhat. But in this 7-fold schema, we've got those attained to in both ways, liberated in both ways, and liberated by wisdom. These are both different types of arhat. We might go more into this later. We've got the body witness. We've got one attained to view, one liberated by faith, and we've got the Dhamma follower and the faith follower. After that, the Buddha says that for one who is not keeping up the training and not following the Buddha's rules, even if they were to live alone, it's likely that they won't be able to complete the path. There'll be obstructions that come up. They won't be able to attain samadhi and real insight. But one who does fulfill the training, does keep all the precepts, then they will be able to attain the fruits, attain liberation. Then Bhaddāli asks a question, why is it that now we have so many rules, but earlier there were fewer rules? And the Buddha explains that once a Sangha has attained greatness, 5 things, has attained greatness, has attained great wealth, there are a lot of acquisitions, labha, has attained renown, has a lot of knowledge, Bahusutta, which he does praise elsewhere, but here says once there's a lot of knowledge, or when the Sangha has been around a long time, then there are the basis for taints, for the asavas, these that grow in a community. And this is a pattern we see throughout the history of Buddhism in different countries, the rise and fall of the capacity for attainment and the affluence of the Sangha in general. And the Buddha also explains to Bhaddāli that why it is that some monastics are litigated, in a way which takes a long time, versus some are litigated in a way which is expedited. And basically, for whether or not someone's a chance offender or a repeat constant offender, if they're easy to admonish and make themselves easy to admonish, then the Buddha suggests that the Sangha should litigate them, should approach them in a way which is wrapped up quickly, versus if someone's a repeat or constant offender, then one should, the Sangha should, not expedite that litigation. After this, the Buddha gives this simile of the colt, or this horse. So just as a horse, when you're starting to train it, you first get it used to wearing the bit, and then you get it used to wearing the harness, and then get it to go in circles, and to prance, and to gallop, and then to training its speed, and all these other traditions of a king. So too, a monastic goes about this gradual training, of which the Buddha elaborates not just an eightfold path of this training, but a tenfold path. The normal eightfold path of right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right mindfulness, right concentration, right knowledge, and right liberation. Ajahn, what would you like to draw out of this sutta?
First, the Buddha's pointing just to this one meal practice, ekasana bhojana, eating in one sitting. He says, by doing this, I avoid illness and affliction. I live light and easy and keep my strength. And just that there's a level of renunciation which is just simple. It's just good enough. And actually, once you've lived eating one meal a day, it's what you and I do. It's a lovely way to live. And apparently, the influencers these days love intermittent fasting. And honestly, it actually has some decent research behind it with one meal a day. So just a beautiful framing of renunciation. In the Visuddhimagga, there's a whole set of verses praising the joy of something like one meal a day. For lay people, I think they could consider just giving up snacking or just eating before noon or something like that. And then the fact that at the Bhaddāli is being very stubborn up until the end of the rains retreat, those 3 months, at which point he realizes his fault and asks forgiveness. And that's a very common ritual that the Buddha sort of laid out for us, is at the end of our rains retreat, we ask each other for forgiveness. Our 3 months, we've spent time together before we depart. It's a chance to sort of really ask, is there anything that was especially notable that I should pay attention to? And just something that everyone could take in their lives, of a special moment to really make an extra point of that. In fact, we're allowed to abbreviate our recitation of the rules on that day so that there's more time to give each other loving feedback. So it's very sweet. Then the Buddha's, repeated admonishment. It can seem quite harsh to us, but one has to remember the Buddha was trying to lay out something that would last for generations. And he saw that everyone would set precedent, and he was very mindful of what that would look like. And this is the Bhikkhu Vagga, the chapter of bhikkhus, so there's a lot more, you'll hear a bit more harsh speech, or not harsh speech, but quite firm admonition from the Buddha, because it was with his Sangha. And as monastics in this tradition, it's actually quite a privilege to be trusted enough by a teacher that they will speak directly to you and basically aim right at your defilements. And the Buddha was doing that here. And then he forgives Bhaddāli. He says, one who acknowledges a fault in the discipline of the noble ones grows in the Dhamma. And that it's just such a beautiful framing of forgiveness, which he also uses with King Ajatasattu after the king has actually killed his own father. He acknowledges his fault, and the Buddha says, one who acknowledges a fault grows in the Dhamma. There's more here, but one is the Buddha's special note of how the import of others perceiving how one isn't behaving well and how that can affect their faith, and how he really points that out. Bhikkhus knew you weren't doing this, bhikkhunis knew you weren't doing this, your teacher knew you weren't doing this, the lay people. How we act as representatives of the sasana of Buddhism, not just as monks, but as lay practitioners, is a really important thing to pay attention to. We can be someone's dharma doorway, or we can close their path depending on how they perceive us. So really being mindful of that mantle. And, one thing I think is, and then just the point of sila as a prerequisite for good meditation, and saying if one goes into the forest with bad sila, one is censured by themselves and can't get samadhi. We need good sila, good virtue to meditate well. And finally, just with the simile of the colt and the thoroughbred, the Buddha says that when the mind is taken out of Mara's stream, it thrashes around like a fish, and just that sense of the colt thrashing around. But how first we put in the bit, constraining what we take in, special resonance with food. Then, the halter, we restrain bad action, and then we learn to prance and act in good ways. But the first step is to stop acting badly. And the other fascinating piece is how the Buddha talks about litigating, as you noted, and that if someone's really delicate and just progressing by a measure of faith and love, they should say, may this person not lose that measure of faith and love, just as a person with one eye they would be extra careful with. And just that sense of gentleness and delicacy we can hold for some people who are, especially fragile. It's very sweet. What is the word of the week?
The word of the week is kukucha, which comes from the root kar, as in karma, as in kama. Kud is the prefix, which means badly, so literally badly done, that which is badly done. Has four main meanings, one of which is just to fidget. Another meaning is misdeeds, that which is badly done. One is restlessness, and the other one is remorse. It's the word which monks, when they see another monk doing something badly, they feel kukucha. They're a bit restless and ill at ease upon seeing someone else do something badly. It also just means remorse, to chew over that which we've done badly. So
it's also really fun to say in the full compound of uttacha kukucha, which is restlessness and remorse and hindrances. So,
all right.